Welcome back to the Who and How Club. I'm the producer, creator, and host of the show, Arys. If you've been listening to and supporting the show, you'll know that we've recently introduced a new series to the TWHC platform called Spotlights. Now, I can't take full credit for this new idea, because if it wasn't for my OG Carlos and both of our brains being put together, you probably wouldn't be graced by what you're about to hear today through this new concept we came up with. So let's all send a special shout out to him. Another special shout out we need to send out is to my producer Merle, who produced the new intro to Spotlights. In TWHC fashion, Spotlights sheds light on everyday people from everyday communities who not only have a story, but also have a lot to offer our listeners and this world with said story, and choose to give back to their communities in some way, shape, or form. We do our best to conduct Spotlights in more of a compressed time frame in comparison to our regular show. But there were so many gems and jewels dropped in today's episode that I chose not to chop it up the way I normally do so that you as the listener can get the full experience and conversation without any interruption. In our conclusion for our Black History Month Spotlights, we speak with Travis Noel, a tall guy I just used to see at my barbershop, who I would eventually come to connect with on different levels, share healthy debates with, and also learn about the many hats that he wears as a man. Of course, I started off by asking Travis Noel the ultimate Who and How Club question: who are you? This is how our conversation went.
Yeah, it's a loaded question. I think I'm an individual. I wear many hats. I'm a son, a grandson, a brother, a friend, a father. I would say, supporter. I want to say an activist in many senses. Former athlete. I'm a teacher, an educator. Like I said, it's a loaded question. I try to just fill in the blanks. I try to live a purposeful life, and where I see a need, I try to fill that void. So hopefully that sheds a little light on your question.
Do you feel like at the state, in the place of life that you're at right now, do you feel like you know who you are, or is there much more to discover?
That's a good question. I was reading a quote the other day. I think it was something along the lines of, you live two lives. The second one begins when you figure out who you are, something to that. But, I look, it kind of hit home with me because I think, the more you learn, the more you can offer. And there's always a void. So, I try to be a person of influence. So at this stage in my life, I think I'm impacting and influencing, just coming in contact with people like yourself, for example, at the barbershop. But, I'm the type of person that I learn through social interaction and observation, and what I observe, and I notice voids, and I try to steer people in the right direction. So, it's just coming in contact with just various people from various backgrounds. I'm always influencing. So I think the influential side, that's kind of new to me, in the sense that before was specifically, in the classroom or through athletics, I was influencing people from that perspective. But now, I'm coming in contact more with single mothers, immigrants, still people from the athletic field, kids just graduating from university or post-secondary. So, yes. Like I said, it's just you have to know how to channel that and try and steer people in the right direction. So
yes,
I'm still getting accustomed to it, but it's been a journey, and I'm learning more about myself every day.
I like what you said. You posted something earlier, which we're gonna have like a little section of this episode where I get into some of your posts, because you post a lot of dope stuff and it triggers me in a positive way. But a lot of the things you've posted on IG, I'm always like, like making the stuff that you post makes me think. You posted something today. With a black boy and all of those options around him, surrounding his head and stuff like that. You had like the Bloods and Crips on one side. You had the gun and the weed on both sides. And I'm sure you can agree to this. Like, as a black boy, a black man, there are so many things coming at us that we have to choose from that I feel like other cultures and other ethnicities can't relate to. There's just something that all those options in that picture are literally like those are fact, things that we're
Right.
offered throughout our lives that we have to choose from. And which side do we choose? How important do you feel like knowing oneself is important to like a black man or a black boy?
Wow. I mean, that post, I mean, I saw it. I mean, I'm not going to take credit for it.
Yeah.
You know, I saw it somewhere and I was like, you know, it hit home just because, you know, there were different options. You know, there's different illustrations, you know, positioned around the black boy,
Yes.
and they were all either pushed, you know, to his face or, you know, for example, there was a white hand and it had the child's heart, you know, and it was like, you know, I want your heart. But what I took from that, well, I took a few things from that. One, you know, it reminded me growing up and, you know, the influences around and, you know, everything from, you know, trying to be recruited into a gang or, you know, from an educational standpoint, you have teachers, educators, and guidance counselors telling you what you can do and what you can't do,
what you should
learn,
yeah.
what's important. How can you tell me what's important? Well, let me just pull up that picture.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Even the basketball above the head. You have the Jesus chain. You got the bottle of Hennessy.
What to believe in. Yeah, what to believe in.
Yes.
You have the Hennessy. Okay, this is cool. Oh, you know, when you turn 18, you know, you get your license and, you know, you're eligible or you're legal to drink. So you should start drinking.
Yeah.
You have the seduction piece where the lady's handing you her bra, you know.
Yes.
You have the gun held by what I'm going to deem as a police officer just based on the uniform.
Yeah.
You know, you know, it's like we're a target out here. We have the Bible, you know, forcing religion where I think, you know, something like that, you got to find yourself. You know, I believe in a higher power.
Yes.
I believe in many different religions, you know. I'm still trying to come to some conclusions when it comes to religion, but you know, there's something that there's something that we highlight in teachings called, you know, being a lifelong learner and you never stop learning.
Yes.
And I think that applies to religion. You know, I don't think there's any right or wrong. It's very deep, but I don't think it should be forced upon you. I think you got to find yourself.
Yes.
And that takes time. You know, my dad always tells me experience is the greatest teacher. There's something that you need to experience because I've been in situations where I felt a higher power. You know, I've gotten out of situations and, you know, positive and negative. And it's just like, well, I don't know. Was that Catholic? Was that Buddhist? Was that Judaism?
Yeah, what category did that fit?
You know, what category? Yeah. Exactly. I just know there's a higher power and we're all here and that's it. And like I said, I'm learning every day. You know, back to the illustration, you have the Jesus piece. Okay, again, it was you know, I think about religion when it comes to that. I also think about, I remember growing up, you know, I'm an 80s baby. I grew up in the 90s and it was like, you know, once you get a little bit of money, you know, you save $3,000-$4,000, go buy a chain, go buy a Cuban link, go buy a Jesus piece. And, you know, the funny thing is, you know, I didn't buy a Jesus piece, but I bought a chain and I ended up giving it away. So it's just one of those things, you know, there's a story to that we won't get into, but it's just like one of those things that there's other pressing needs. And I think, you know, as a community, we should be touching on those needs and those issues a lot more opposed to, you know, what we look like and buying, you know, just dressing a certain way and purchasing certain brands and whatnot. But yeah, so like I said, you know, you kind of hit home with that. Oh, the last piece was the money. And, you know, money's important, but you can see the hand, you know, like you're pushing the money in someone's face. And I think you devalue yourself once you start living a life or you look at money as it comes before everything. It's like, you know, it just, it kind of really, I think it cheapens everything and it kind of
devalues.
Right, exactly. And it kind of reroutes you because, you know, one of the things that I've learned, and it really, you know, I kind of, you know, I just touch on it every day with a lot of different people. and even with myself, when I reflect on myself throughout
Yes.
the day,
Yeah.
is the money's gonna come. Find what you're passionate about, because before, like, I'm not rich by any means, but I think, I work at a stable job, quote unquote, and
Yeah.
making money has never been very hard for me. But I noticed that when you're chasing money, you can enjoy it, and it's not the money that you're chasing. It's really, you should be in love with the process. You should be in love with the experiences. The money's going to come after.
Regardless, yeah. When you're chasing
Exactly.
money, it's like you're going nowhere fast.
You're never
When it
going to be
comes.
satisfied because
Exactly.
numbers never end, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, keep chasing that money. But yeah, that picture, they say a picture's worth
A
a
thousand
thousand words.
words,
This
100%.
this thing is priceless in my eyes. And the last piece, the last part I'll add is just I have a lot of friends, coming from where I'm from, that fell victim because they didn't have a mind of their own,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
things are being pushed in front of their face. For example, you think about gangs. I know a lot of kids, yeah, guys I used to walk to school with, what I mean, shoulder to shoulder, and either they've just come home, they've done long prison stints, or they're still in jail, and it all stemmed from the gang. And it was just like, idle hands is the devil's playground. Well, what are you doing when you're in a gang? You know what I
Yes.
mean? It's
Yes.
just like a lot of dead time, and now you're thinking about, okay, illicit activities, and that just leads to one place, well, two places, right? But for
Yes.
them, for the most part, it led to the penitentiary, and it wasn't even a decision they made on their own. It was, like I said, it was forced upon them, and
Yeah.
for
They got
whatever
sucked
reason,
into the
maybe
life. Yeah.
exactly,
Well,
they didn't felt loved at home, sense of belonging, self esteem, confidence, whatever the case may be, and they went down that route. But
I'm gonna
yeah, the
I'm gonna
picture.
for those listening to this episode this week, like, I'm gonna post this picture, just so people could get a feel of what we're speaking about as well. When I look at that photo, there are two parts that I kind of don't understand, which is the heart and then the mind. I mean, I understand it, and it's like those are presented as choices to the black boy as well. What boggled my mind is there's nothing music related on the
Right.
post, which is kind of cool, but in a way, I know a lot of black boys, like, it's like, or black, us as black, or our black culture, it's like, you could, when you're growing up, you could either be a basketball player or an artist. And
Right.
I don't know if the Jesus piece represents the musical aspect, because we know as rappers, that's the first thing they go and get is the Jesus piece, right? So maybe that's that
Right.
part covering it. Obviously, there's
Right.
the jewelry aspect, and then the music thing. But I'm looking at that boy, and I've seen boys who look just like him from where we're from, and it's like,
Right.
what if he knows himself? Does he choose any of those things? Like, what things in that image is positive from your perspective when looking at that image? The brain and the heart are there, and those are the only two things I could pull away from. And of course, maybe the educational part. But
Right.
what are your thoughts on, like, what do you think that guy would choose, or
Well,
should he choose?
I think the first thing he needs to do is weigh his options. He needs to be aware, self-awareness. The first thing is, if you control someone's mind, you control how they think, it's easy to position them into doing whatever you want them to do.
Mm.
With the heart now, it's, a lot of people, I don't want to say weak people think with their heart, but
Hmm.
emotions get in the way.
Of the
Emotions can
logic.
cloud,
Yeah.
yeah, and cloud your vision, and kind of get you off course. So what should he do? Again, that's a loaded question. I don't know his situation, but for example, you have the diploma at the top, and that symbolizes education. But I'll give you a scenario, because this has happened to me. It happened to many of my friends, and I witness this every day, just working in the education field. It's
Right.
one of those things where you'll get a guidance counselor, and they preach post-secondary, but post-secondary education to them means university. Well, that might not necessarily be what's right for that particular student.
Right.
For example, you're going to tell me if you have a student, I mean, oh geez, I hope you have some time because this one's a few layers. For example, they took away vocational schools, and those schools were meant, to get kids directly into the trades and, get them the experience necessary, from grade 9 through grade 12.
Yeah.
Those 4 years of high school, get them the experience that they need so they can go into the workforce, 18, 19 years old and start earning an income. Well, they kind of, got away with that, whether it was, carpentry, automotive, electrical, plumbing. Those things were taught in the high schools. Okay, so now I guess the climate has changed. Now,
yes.
They want you to go and study apprenticeship programs. And that's all fine and dandy, but we're not promoting those. Well, not we, like society. When you tell a parent, and, my grandmother included, she was all about, university. It worked out for me, but,
the younger generation.
Next door, exactly. They might need apprenticeship programs. They may need, programs like, I don't know if Travis is still around where they, with the musical engineering and stuff like that.
Right.
But it might mean community college. It might mean getting out into the workforce and earning an income and then figuring it out later. There's no, it's funny. It's a contradiction because you see a lot of people, they'll tell you, you meet a lot of people and they'll tell you, oh, there's no wrong time to go to school, and then they'll applaud a 45-year-old going back to college or going back to university, or starting university at that point of their life.
Yeah.
But then we'll frown at the kid that wants to take a couple years off out of high school, kind of find themselves.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, you're just giving money away. And then if we force this kid to university, when you meet a kid, like I said, I can have a conversation with a kid and know where his head's at, and I can tell you, okay, yeah, this kid, should go to university, he should go to college, he's passionate about this. But, you take a kid that's not passionate about university, but that's the vision you have for him, and then you put him in, let's say he registers for York University, he gets in, and then, he takes out OSAP and all these student loans, and then, after 3-4 years, he flunks out, he doesn't graduate, but guess what? He's 40,
in debt now. And he's
$40,000 in debt.
Yeah.
Okay, what job is he going to get? Okay, now that he's 23, 24 years old with no experience, he's been giving it his all.
No life experience either. Like you don't even know, going back to knowing oneself. Like I truly believe now, Travis, like in life, like I'm turning 32 this year. I still feel like I'm 21. You know what I mean? Like in your 20s are so key when it comes to life because you're going to be growing in your 20s. You know what I'm saying? 19 to like 26, 27. But like you have these kids making adult decisions, and it was pushed upon us growing up because we were in a different time. You know what I mean? But the times that we're in right now, these kids need to grow up a bit more before making these adult decisions, like going to school or figuring out what they want, or else they're just repeating a vicious cycle, like being in debt, not knowing what they even want to do. They're just going to school because someone told them, which goes back to the picture, like all these things just being forced upon, especially us as being Black, because it's like we only have so many options. That's what that picture represents too. It's like these are your only options right now because of you being Black.
Absolutely.
And it's like if you can't beat them, join them kind of thing. You know what I mean? So it's like where does a young man go from here when there are so many distractions, so many people shoving things in their faces and telling them what they should do, what they shouldn't. Even our families sometimes, like the families the family could be detriment to us based on what they want for us. But what about what we want for ourselves? And how could I even want anything for myself if I don't know myself yet, right? So it's like being able to live and have that experience and trying to figure yourself out. We need more time. There's this time aspect, like, oh, you're running out of time. Was there ever a time in your life, Travis, where you felt like, or someone was telling you like, yo, you needed to do this because of time, like you'll run out of time if you don't do this now, or What aspect of time has played a part in your life when it comes to time?
Let's hold that question for 1 second on time. I just want to touch on something you said.
Yes,
The first thing
yes.
with regards to options, I think, and this is why I commend you for this podcast, is a lot of these kids buy into that, that theory that these are the only options, because the kids that, let's say, that do step out of the box, and like yourself, you have a podcast. That seems so far-fetched to an 18-year-old, because they're like, well, black people don't have podcasts. You know what I mean? They don't think they can do it. Like you meet, how many black lawyers do you know? How many black doctors do you know? And then we don't do a good job, like myself, I'm going to throw myself in that box. And that's why I try to reach out and touch as many individuals as I can, that I let them know, like, you can do anything you want to do. It sounds cliche, but a lot of kids don't believe it. When I was in high school, I didn't think I could become a teacher because I never had a black teacher. I may have had one, So I had one black professor in 4 years of university. Two, I'm sorry. Two. Both of them were in the social work field. Yeah. And they kind of recruited me to come to their class. I went to university in West Virginia. They kind of recruited me to take their course. I believe it counted towards my art credit requirements. But anyway, so, when you do have these black doctors and black lawyers and black entrepreneurs and black investors, we got to do a better job of connecting with the youth. And there's got to be programs, and there's got to be better mentorship, because when you're at home and you're with a parent who, they kind of, fell into that trap or that cycle where it's like, and, my family included, you just, you go to school, you get a degree or a diploma, and, you pay off your debt. And then at 65, you retire, and life expectancy is 72. First of all, that's the wrong way of thinking. If you're telling me, you're going to work to 65, life expectancy is 72, that's 7 years of enjoyment. I think that's backwards thinking, so we got to change that cycle. And, a good friend of mine, Ryan Baines out of Augusta, Georgia, he told me, he was like, life expectancy 72, but the last 5 funerals I've been to, nobody hit 65. So if you plan on working to 65, you got to make it there. So, those two things. We have to, we got to connect with our youth on a deeper level. And I forgot the second part of what I was saying, but
they got to know that.
It'll come back to me.
Yeah, they got to know that there are more options than just the options being presented.
Anything is possible.
Travis,
anything's possible.
Trust me, I'm telling you. Like, growing up, I grew up in during my teens, I was in foster care. Like, this is something I share on the show. You know what I mean? And I was out of school for many years. After grade 3, I wasn't in school until I got into foster care around the age of 13. And then at age 13, it's like their mandate, like they got to put you in school. So the year of me entering foster care and childcare or whatever, sorry, not childcare, but the system, it's like halfway through the school year. So now they're forcing me into grade 8 for just a few months, right? And then I'm going to high school that same semester after not being in school since grade 3. And all the odds were stacked up against me. And then as I'm going through the system throughout my teens, I'm like, I want to get into this field. I want to get into social work. And from every direction, people are telling me I can't do it unless I go to school. I can't do it unless I go to college. I can't do it. What do I want to do? What do I want to do? And Travis, like, you're talking about like a higher power, right? It was something I just put out into the universe that I wanted to get into this field. And lo and behold, after my situation, being in foster care and whatever, and going against the odds, people telling me I can't do stuff, I got into the field without any diploma or school. And I was getting paid. I'm getting paid the way someone who did go to school should be or whatever. But like, I understand that not everyone has those opportunities, but I do feel like when you believe in yourself, when you believe in a higher power and you position yourself, you have the ability to break all odds. You know what I'm saying? So I agree with everything you're saying. And if these kids could just wrap their minds around that and maybe control their destinies just a little bit more the way you and I did, they'll.
Absolutely. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm going to touch on two things. One thing is You know, you believe in yourself, and you know that's great. That's, you know, that's a hard task. You know, the other thing is, I mean, you were talking about the illustration, the picture that I posted earlier, and you were talking about, you know, rap. And one of the things that it really bothers me is that when people look at like athletics or rap and they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna rap, they think it's so easy. And I'm just like, listen, do you know what it takes to be a successful rapper? Like, I tell people all the time, like, there are a lot of people that can rap, but now if you're trying to turn that into a career and, you know, generate income to sustain yourself and
pursue it,
you know, make a living and pursue it, like, you know, people, like, they just talk down on it, like, oh yeah, you know, yeah, I'll just rap, I'm nice, you know, I could do this, but they don't even have the necessary skills. And the main one being,
excuse me, sir. Yeah.
The main one being, you know, like, self-assessment. Like, if, you know, you listen to some things, like, I'll listen to a couple, like, local websites or whatnot, and I'll listen to some music, and I was like, man, you know, the people around you could not have told you or convinced you that this shit was, like, this is it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, come on. Like, I'm not saying you don't have talent, but
it might need a little work. It might need a little
work. Man, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing with sports. You're going to know if you're trash, you know what I mean? Because when you're out there competing, you know, either a coach isn't going to play you or you don't make a squad or whatnot. You're going to know real quick.
There's a way to determine that.
Yeah, you can tell yourself, you know, on that ride home with your mother or father, you know, that you're nice or whatever. But when you get into the team element and you're not producing, there's a reason why, and you got to look in the mirror. But, you know, there's just a lot of skills that go in. And,
but I love this. I love this because you and I have had these combos in the barbershop, and we're gonna kind of segue into how you and I know each other. But I agree. I used to really 100% agree with what you're saying until I realized that it's not only about the talent but the work, because we see a lot of these guys that are putting in work that are horrible, but they've made it. Now they might not last, because there's one component that's missing from all of these guys who are or girls who have quote unquote made it in the music industry, and they made it by hard work, not by talent. There's something missing that they're missing, and this is why they don't last, because when they woke up, when they were born, it wasn't in them. Like, there's a natural ability that you're born with, a talent, a power, so to speak, that when you pursue something, it's because it's about who you are, not like you just doing something, you know, like it's not just an exterior, an extracurricular activity where, oh, I'm just going to rap. But are you a rapper? Anyone could rap, but are you Are you an artist? Are you a creator? Were you born with these abilities, or is this just something you're doing just like any other 9-to-5 job, like working at a fast food restaurant? And that's why we don't see the people last, because they're not true artists. They're just doing something. Right. So I've been,
No, I mean, I think the key word you said was a career. Yeah. You know, a lot of people, you could be a fly-by-night, you know, one-hit wonder, whatever.
Yes.
But to have a career, you know, that's a whole different.
Well, Jay-Z and those guys, they were born with those. They were poets. They were poets on the block. Yep. You know, they were born with those powers. It was an ability that not everyone had. You know, but now it became like a job. You know, so everyone can do a job. Anyone could do a job. Anyone could flip a burger.
You know what, though? I'll tell you what, man. The thing about Jay-Z, like you said, he was a poet. And, you know, when you study poetry in school at any level, you know, you're studying words and you're studying purpose and conviction. Yes. And the one thing, like anybody that knows me, they'll tell you, Andre 3000 is my favorite artist. No, sorry, Andre 3000 is my favorite rapper. Jay-Z is my favorite artist.
Yes.
Bar for bar, Andre 3000. But then when we look at the art, Jay-Z's my guy, you know what I'm saying? So I've seen Jay-Z live.
Turned the arm, what he's turned the art into.
Okay,
he took his art and turned it into something.
Exactly. And I've seen Jay-Z live 5 or 6 times, and I'm like, when I'm there, like, it's like I'm frozen. Like I'm like, man, the conviction that he speaks with, and you just
and he doesn't
like,
even have to move around. It's just
exactly.
the words that he chose to say. Most people just want to be a rapper, but he's taken the art form and turned it into something. You know what I mean? So
And that's what people don't understand, man. When I tell them there'll never be another Jay-Z, because it's not just about selling records. It's like what he's done. Like, my father still lives in Brooklyn, and when I go there, and like I'll go downtown Brooklyn, and I'll walk by Barclays. I'm talking about for hours. I'll go to the mall. I'll come back, and when I seen him live, what he's done. Like, there'll never be another artist that inspires or instills that kind of hope into a community. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's amazing. You know what I'm saying? So when we're talking about him, like, it gets personal, because I'm like, man, listen, it's bigger, it's deeper than rap.
It's deeper than rap, 100%.
Deeper than rap, you know what I mean? And I'm gonna throw Killer Mike in there too with 3000, because
of course,
to me at this stage in my life, man, like, you can't just be on the mic just saying a bunch of foolishness. You know what I'm saying? It's gotta hit home. You know what I'm saying? I'm approaching 40 soon, but it's like, for me to go spend my money and purchase your album, whatever, you got to be saying something.
Yeah.
So
and there's no age anymore. I feel like there's no age. Like, the guys who are older, they're only getting better. You know what I'm saying? And thankfully, we have like guys like you and I. I know what we've had these combos in the barbershop.
Right.
I know what kind of vibe you like when it comes to music, and I can relate to that. Even though so. Yeah, these guys are only getting better. I thank God that we still have those artists that are still putting out music, and there's still quality out there, But pop music has become, hip hop music is pop music, Like, it's it's all across the board now, and everybody and their grandmother of many cultures do it. So it kind of waters it down, but we still have some substance and quality there, which is good. I want to go into let's go to the barbershop, and let me paint a picture for you. Okay, I'm a kid. I'm young, but I see you coming in one day, and you're like a giant to me, because I've been going to the shop since I was like 18, and I'd see you come in, and you're like this giant, and I'm like, I see when you walk in, you have this confidence about you, and everybody knows you, everybody hails you up, and this is what I've noticed about you when you walk into the shop. When you walk in, you're very quiet in the beginning. But I feel like you're just listening, like you're hearing what everyone else what the vibe is like today. It's very rare that you'll spark it, because when you come in, there's already some type of energy or vibe going, some type of conversation, but you'll listen and then you jump in. And anytime you've spoken, I've always listened. So I look at you like an OG in a sense, and like you and I have had debates in the shop, and you've connected me with people, and we always talk about music. You'll give me advice and all that stuff. You being an OG, do you look at yourself as an OG? Like, as a mentor, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, the terminology,
whatever
the terminology may be, I mean, I think you get, especially, the kind of work that I'm into, I think I'm a natural leader, but also the work that I'm into, you kind of get forced into that leadership role. So, I think, the barbershop, we'll get into that again, deeper in a second, but like, it's a special place for me. But I know the power of influence, and I look at these kids that come into the barbershop. See, actually, let's go in deeper that. I look at grown men that, my father tells me all the time, never feel sorry for a person that had the same opportunity as you that blew it. And I would say, I look at some of these men, and it's just like, they've made some mistakes, and again, the higher power. I was like, man, like, I grew up in the same community. I probably did a couple things differently, but what was it? Obviously, it was the power of influence. I played sports all my life since I was probably 7 or 8 years old. Amesbury, Harding Park, stuff like that. I've been playing football since I was 10 or 11, and it was one of those things where it's just like having the right people in your life. So, you come in, and you said I come in and I observe, and, I learn a lot at the barbershop through social interaction and observation. So I come in and observe, and I try to feel things out. I'm not trying to put something in the air that I wouldn't want someone to share with my kid if he were to go to the barbershop on his own.
Yes,
You know what I'm trying to say?
yes.
Especially, we go pretty frequently. You and I, we're Friday, Saturday type of guys.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes I go to the barbershop. I live on the borderline Mississauga, Oakville. I'll go to the barbershop. I'll sit there for a couple hours.
Yes.
Just because I know,
Spend
I'm
some
not going to
time,
get
soak
trouble.
it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go grab a couple bottles of water, and just hang out in the barbershop. But, like I said, you don't want to put out there, it's not just negative energy. It's the information you put out there, man. Like, you listen to some of these kids and you're like, man, you're lost. You know what I'm saying? But then you listen to the, quote unquote OGs that are in there and you're like, man, what are you telling these kids? You're just as lost as this kid, but this kid has an excuse. He's 16. You know what I'm saying? You're 45.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So there's no difference between the two of you. Just, you were born earlier, so you're a little bit older, but you're just as lost. You're clueless, so, and, I attribute, one thing sports has done for me basically, or really is just the ability to travel, man. Like, sometimes it gets real depressing when you talk to people. I'm not talking about going on vacations and whatnot, but just leaving your element, hopping on the train, hopping on the bus. If you're blessed with the opportunity that you can visit another country, do it. Go get an experience. Go see something. But it's just, a lot of individuals that you come in contact with, they've never left James Street for no real purpose.
Yes.
They've never left North York. They've never left, and then, okay, well, you've left North York. Have you left Toronto? Have you left the province of Ontario? Yeah. But it's not, it's just the way of thinking. It's just that small town. It's just that small mind thinking because, I'll go to New York and I have cousins that, I have family all over. And I'll tell them, my cousin's in Brooklyn. I'll say, I'm going to the Bronx to spend the day with Auntie so-and-so or Uncle so-and-so. They're like, nah, we can't do that. We don't go to the Bronx. I'm like, what? Why not? Oh, nah, man, you going to we don't go to Harlem. Nope. We don't go to I'm like, man, listen, man, I'm not going looking for no trouble. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go see my family.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, I just, and, I've driven. I go on road trips by myself, man. I've traveled. Like I said, I've been blessed probably more than the average person comes from where we come from. But I think it started with sports and just observing different things. Like, I always wanted to be an architect. Very few people know that. I can't draw for shit. But part of my motivation, my inspiration, like, a couple of my friends, like, they know that, like, I'll leave my house at, like, 2 a.m. and I'll drive downtown Toronto and just look at the architectural designs of some of the skyscrapers downtown. Back when, I forgot, the Thompson Diner was open, I'll sit there for an hour, have a Long Island iced tea or rum and Coke, and then drive back. You know what I mean? I know I can't draw, but if I see something, I could tell you what I like. I could tell you, okay, if I were to build a condo, that's the kind of condo I build, but I can't draw. But that's where I get inspiration. And then it also lets me know that, man, like, if you ever watch the process of something being built from the ground up, it's phenomenal. And that's the kind of, that's what I take into the classroom. Like, I get these kids, from September, I teach 6th grade, but it's one of those things where, they're 10 years old when they get to me. So I don't have them from the ground up, but the progression that you see from September to June is kind of like seeing a building going up from the ground up.
Yes.
So you got to set the foundation, discipline, and then everything takes care of itself. The stronger the discipline, the stronger the foundation, the easier it is to add layers.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And the stronger they're going to be, when they leave my class, and then, if I've done
into the
hopefully
world.
I'm successful. Yeah. They carry that on to grade 7 and onward, and, you're molding them. But, sorry, I strayed away a little bit. But yeah,
it's okay.
You just want to feel these kids out and, like, like, you're in the barbershop with me, a good percentage of the time. Like, I go to the barbershop every week.
Yeah.
I have a system. So I go every week and, you meet kids and, they're into athletics and they're, even if they're a dream, and I'll never tell the kids, oh, you can't make it to the NBA. You can't go to the NFL. You can't run to the Olympics, because I know kids. I've worked with kids that have done all three.
Yes.
I've also mentored kids that are lawyers. Like one of my kids, like Shiv, Indian kid, he kind of, he was very reluctant and just discouraged about applying to law school, he got in. Like, this kid, like, he's so happy, and like that was like a proud moment, you know.
Right.
And when he called me and told me he got in, I like, you know, I was speechless. But it's just one of the, you know, the power of influence, man. I tell people, and it's very important who you surround yourself with, because I was telling a friend of mine, Jermaine, the other day, I was like, you know, you ever like have a conversation with somebody, and like at the end of the day, you're like, man, did I like, you think you either aged or you just your IQ level went down a few points, because you're just like, man, what the,
Right.
I just spent an hour of my life, 1/24th of the day, with this knucklehead, and you know, like, it was a complete waste of time. But
Right.
like I said, the 16-year-olds, they have a little bit of an excuse, because you know, they're being.
Yeah, they're still in that sponge stage, right? Where like they're able to soak new information up and still adjust themselves. Nothing's more scarier than a person who is at a certain stage. I don't even like to use the word age anymore. It's all about stage, you know? Like, and when you see a person who's at a certain stage that you kind of expect better from them, but I still hope that they have room to grow, but sometimes they'll show you that they have no intention on changing their viewpoint, or like they're based on their experiences. Some people might be jaded, you know, they might be bitter and stuff like that. So they're done. They've given up on themselves or that room to change, which is kind of sad. Like, you should be able to grow and change every day of your life. You know, you got to be learning new things. Going back to the OG stuff and at the barbershop and how I viewed you, I'm curious to know, like, who are some OGs or like some mentors in your life? Maybe if you wanted to name like one or two, like who really taught, who sticks out in your mind? Who came to your mind the first thing when I said that? Like someone in your life that has taught you things or has been an inspiration to you.
Well, first and foremost, my grandmother. I mean, tough love. You know, my grandmother, like, it was that was the definition of tough love. And I think the best thing she did for my brother and I was letting us know that, you know, the world's a cruel place, you know, so don't ever think someone's going to feel sorry for you because of the cards you were dealt. You know, you have to make them work. Definitely my father, my uncle, you know, my father stayed in Brooklyn. My mother passed away, so it was my grandmother and my uncle that raised my brother and I.
Yes.
You know, Calvin and Dave. I met Dave, man. People don't know. Like, I've known Dave since the late 80s, man. Like, Dave worked at the Red. My brother's best friend, his older brother was Dave's best friend. I remember going to Chuck E. Cheese with Dave. I mean, it was like 40 of us going to celebrate a birthday party with Dave. This is like 89 or 90. Like, this is way back.
That's my born year. That's my. I wasn't even born. I was born that year, 89.
Yep, Calvin. You know what I mean? At the shop, you know, the head of the shop. You know, like.
For those who don't know who Travis is talking about, go back a few episodes, about like 5-6 episodes ago. We've had these individuals on the show. Travis is talking about the barbers. We've had a couple barbershop episodes, so go back and get to know who Dave and Calvin are. These are the people that Travis is mentioning. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so, you know, Calvin's taught me, like I said, I posted on several occasions that, you know, Calvin and Dave, they've taught me more than, you know, as much, if not more, than any professor. You know what I mean? Dave, from a theoretical standpoint, like when it comes to like history and science, I'm like, sometimes I'm like, man, where'd you study? You know what I mean? But like, you know, I know he's been to college and, you know, but, you know, Dave, you know, he's the kind of guy, like, he'll watch Bill Nye, he'll watch National Geographic, you know, shows like that. He's plugged into CNN, and, you know, he shares that kind of stuff with me. You know, he's well versed in many different areas. And then Calvin, like, when it comes to like investing and saving and renovations, and, you know, Calvin just he has a way, like, he doesn't share a lot with too many people. I'm just blessed. Like, I'm one of the few people that he has you know, opened up with. I got a homeboy B, you know, he's probably one of the, you know, he's you know, we grew up together. He discipline. If there's one thing I could, you know, touch on with him, it's definitely discipline. Like, he knew what he wanted from an early age, and, you know, he went out and worked hard for it, and taught me, in the process a lot about discipline and home ownership and just seeing, like, looking at things from, a particular lens.
Yes.
I've got and then, coaches, my little league coach, Lou Gelblum. I've had a couple coaches, Coach Grant, Coach Leo, Coach Diodati, who, they're teachers as well. They were like huge inspirations and influences because, actually, I'll touch on them for a little bit because they were not only my high school football coaches, but, Coach Diodati, was my religion teacher and I believe history as well. But, and then Coach Leo was my math teacher. And if you want to play in the, college football, you got to pass the SAT. You also have to do well in math, in a couple math courses because it's a core subject. But when I was in their class, they were the young teachers, 25, 26, but they dressed, they were the cool teachers. They dressed how we wanted to dress. And I remember one day, going to lunch with Coach Diodati, and he won't remember. I don't think he'll remember this, but I believe he had a Tribe Called Quest CD in there in his car, in his Honda Civic. And I'm like, you listen to Tribe Called Quest? He's like, yeah. I was like, man, you know what I mean? I have
when you
so
find out that your teacher is cooler than what you thought, man, it's the best feeling in life.
Because, the crazy shit is when you come from where we come from and then you listen, you don't have any black teachers. It's like, you don't even think you can be a teacher. When they tell you, oh, man, you got to do an undergrad, and then you have to, do, a year of teacher's college. It's now 2 years. You're just like, man, 5 years of schooling after university, and you're just like, man, I can't even do this. It's not possible. But, they definitely, help. I won't say planted the seed, but they help nurture that seed within me and help, me develop. I can go on about them all day, but I'll keep it moving. Clinton John, he's a guy from the community. He's a teacher. I think he's been teaching 13 or 14 years, and he serves as a mentor as well. There's a few others I'll get into along the way. I met a lot of people, man. Hopefully I don't offend anyone by leaving them out. But, the one common theme amongst those people, discipline. They're all disciplined. Like and when, you were talking about, me coming into the shop and feeling things out and what do you want to share? And,
yes.
What I've learned about myself, if you want to be successful, you have to be disciplined. And that's what I try to share most with kids. It's like, you want to instill in them and paint a picture for them of things of value that you learned late. You want to plant that in them at 16. You know what I'm saying? And, I forgot one person. I got a homeboy, Antwi, that very, very bright individual. He, we have talks. Like, sometimes I'll call him or he'll call me, and, we're both foodies. I mean, his metabolism's a little faster than mine. So, I mean, I'm putting on the weight. He just stays slim. So, we always get together and, we'll go out and whatnot. But, we always bounce ideas back and forth off one another. And, his discipline, phenomenal. And, you just want to instill these things in that younger generation. But you look at any successful person, it's discipline and sacrifice. And if I had known, you hear,
sure.
You hear a lot of people saying, if I knew then what I know now, I'd be rich. Yeah, the money's going to come regardless, but you would have been a lot further in every aspect of your life, whether it's health, whether relationship, whether it's whatever the case may be, your job, your career, whatever the case may be, so you have to take time and just embrace the journey. But
yes, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, like when you have the experience, you got to pass it down. I think it's selfish to not pass it down, regardless of who internalizes it and uses it or not. To pass it down. I mean, like that's why I started this platform. You know what I mean? To share. I'm like, I don't want to keep all of my experiences to myself. I want to tell my story and create a platform where people could tell theirs as well, because we learn from each other. I had said this recently to somebody. I feel like, like smart people learn from their own experiences, but like wise people learn from the experiences of others. And that's
Right.
whether it's a mistake,
Yep.
whether it's a success, an accomplishment, whatever it may be. Like we are here to learn from one another. And if we're not speaking, that's why the barbershop's so important, because when you're within
Absolutely.
that environment, so much knowledge is being shared from different avenues and walks of life, different beings, different mentalities and viewpoints. Whether you agree with them or not, you're still gonna learn. You're gonna learn what to do and what not to do in an environment like that. So we need to take those concepts and bring them outside of that shop, because if only the world knew what kind of things we're talking about in that shop, we could invite the whole world into that. You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty cool. But
You know what?
I agree with what you're saying.
You said something there that stood out, and I'm going to touch on that. You know, the thing about the shop, too, as well, is that it's a very authentic space.
Non-judgmental.
Non-judgmental. And when you tell kids, when you're telling a child something in there, it's coming from a good place and it's coming from experience. It's like you're providing a why. So if I tell a kid, or a how, like if I tell my son, he wants to be a doctor, and, I'm telling him, yeah, it's possible. Well, I've met a doctor. I know black doctors, that's going to resonate more. And he's going to feel that it's possible because here's someone who looks like me. And if they can do it, I can do it. And I can provide the necessary steps. Now, I'm going to give you a scenario, because I paint this picture for, I say, 60%, maybe 70% of the individuals I come in contact with. And, I would say, we have a very deep conversation. I'm trying to paint a picture for them and, try and change their course, because the route that they're on is not going to lead to, I guess, a very successful destination, if I can say that. So, growing up, like I said, I was raised by my grandmother, and my grandmother, she kind of drank the Kool-Aid in terms of, you're going to university, and I'm still
structure, yeah,
right. I'm trying to figure myself out. I'm like, okay, Grandma, what am I going to study? I don't know, but you're going. Okay, well, you go to university, and like I said, it worked out for me. Like, I remember when I got to university, we took this like aptitude test. Like, you answered like 150 questions, and then they told you at the end, they punch in the computer, and then it tells you, okay, these are your skills, these are your strengths, these are your weaknesses. And I remember the lady at the testing center was like, you're good with people, and you're a leader, and you're influential, all these things. This is 2002, 2003. I'm telling you. And she was like, you should get into teaching, something of a leadership role, managerial, stuff like that, right? And I was just like, a teacher? I'm like, man, I'm trying to get paid. Like, I don't want to be a teacher. Like, I'm trying to be rich. If I don't play football, I'm trying to be rich. So I remember saying to myself, okay, here I am. What's going to make me look cool to everybody? In front of everybody. And I declared, I wanted to be I decided, okay, I'm going to be a finance major. And then I got there, and I was just like, man, there's way too many 8 a.m. courses, math courses for finance. So I dropped out of that. I transferred. I went from finance to economics. Too many math courses. I finally go back to my academic advisor, and I said, what degree in the business, and what business degree can I get, or concentration in the business, in the business field can I get that requires the least amount of math? And they were like, management. And I was just like, man, okay. So I got into management. I was lucky enough, I played a year in the CFL out in Winnipeg. And after that, coming home, you got to find a job. And, I had my son the same year, so I have to provide for him. And it's just one of those things where it's just like, during the interview process, when it's time to talk about salaries, and they're telling you what the entry level salaries are, and you're just like, yeah, this isn't for me. So, throughout all of it, I'm just telling you, basically, I ended up finding myself, and then I got into teaching.
Yes.
And I was just like, man, so I started teaching in 2012, and I was just like, man, well, back in 2002, had I just listened, somebody saw something in me that, I was a natural teacher. And I have tons of teachers in my family. My grandfather was a teacher, I have cousins that are teachers, the Caribbean, Canada, and the U.S. But I was just ignorant to the fact, because what was I doing? I was trying to chase the money. I told you, I was trying to get paid. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And, there's ways to get paid in the education sector, but you just got to be strategic in how you do it. You got to run programs. You got to probably make it to the top of the ladder, whether that's, superintendent or education director, whatever the case may be. Now, remember, I told you about that conversation with my grandmother. You're going to university. What am I going to study? She didn't know, but she's being honest. That was the best. She was sharing
what she knew.
Yeah. Go to university. Okay, so one of my best friends, Justin, Mississauga, Trinity as well. My family's Trinity and Grenadian, right? So,
yes.
Justin has a conversation with his mother. His mother was a secretary. No, sorry, a librarian, and I believe a third grade teacher with the Toronto Catholic School Board. Okay.
Yes.
She has a sit down with her son, and she was like, "Listen, you're going to go to university." She was able to identify his strengths, right, to the T. He was a very, very great writer. Okay, well, you're going to study English. Okay. With that degree, you can do a lot of different things. And then, at the end of your 4 years, when you earn that degree, you go and get your master's. I didn't even know what a master's was until I got to university. I'm just keeping it real with you. At 18, what's a master's? But, now he, so upon, he graduates from university. He works for, a newspaper company in North Carolina. And then an oil company comes and snatches him up and say, you write really well. Why don't you become an oil analyst? Okay. Just because, he's playing to his strengths. He's a great writer. So now he's an oil analyst. And then, he works his way up, and now he's an oil trader. I mean, you can do the math, and you know what oil traders make. It's a very good profession to be in, all right? Yes. Very lucrative, okay? Without disclosing too much. But the bottom line was, now you take my grandmother, you take Miss Amoa, that's his mother. Both of them meant well. My grandmother just didn't have the knowledge. My grandmother was an immigrant who came here in the late 70s, right? She wasn't afforded the opportunity. She didn't go to university. She didn't go to college. She worked really hard in Grenada. She didn't have a North American education. Justin's mother, you go to university, you go to college. I think she even went to high school over here. So she's more in line with the system. She was able to push her son in a direction, like she studied the trends. She knew the way society was going. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so it's just a different conversation. Like I said, I played, even, Little League football. I played on a predominantly Jewish football team.
Yes.
And, when you would go over to these kids' houses and you'd see how they interact with their parents, it was just different. And I'm not saying there's a wrong way or a right way. What I'm just saying is just being privy and being fortunate to get that experience and that knowledge. So that's, like I said, when I go to the shop, this is what I'm trying to share with them. For example, I'll give you a quick story.
Yes.
I coach high school basketball we're off this year because of COVID, but 13 years high school coaching. And every time I get to the school, these kids, these young ladies, they'd always try to pick my brain, and they would tell me, "Oh, Coach Travis, we're going to university, we're going to college, whatever." So there's a group of about 7 or 8 girls. Okay.
Yes.
I remember they all approached me. They said, "Coach, we're going to Windsor for university." Perfect. Okay. So I had, so I was talking to the group. I said, "Okay, what are you guys studying?" 2 of the girls are like, "Oh, we're going to study nursing."
Yes.
So I said, "Okay, you guys are going to be perfect. You guys are in a great position. You can, it's going to be, it's going to be challenging, but it's going to be worth it at the end."
Yeah.
The other 4 or 5 girls told me that they got into St. Clair College, which is in Windsor as well, and they said they're going to, or just outside of Windsor, I believe, and they said they were going to study travel and tourism. So I started scratching my head. I was like, "Man, listen, do you know from my device," so I pointed my phone, "that I can book a vacation, rent my car, book a hotel, whatever, just from my device?" Like, basically, I was trying to show them that's not a growing industry. That's not something, and, you guys are going to go take out student loans, because, inner city kids, and, they're telling me, they're taking out OSAP, and I was like, okay, well, you're going to take out $12,000 a year. But let's say your program's 3 years, 12 times 3, that's $36,000. You're going to go put yourself in that $36,000 for a job that's probably going to pay you just above minimum wage if you're lucky enough to get a job.
Yes.
Okay. How much of that debt do you think you're going to pay off until you get frustrated and realize, okay, that you're just in the rat race and the cycle's continuing, that you're going to have to go back and you need to go back to school and get another degree or another diploma in order to make enough money to pay off this debt. But then you go and do that a second time. Now 36 plus 36, we're at $72,000. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's just sharing knowledge with them. So anyway, long story short, I ended up meeting these girls. I didn't see all 6 of them. It was like 6 or 7 of them now, but I seen about 4 or 5 of them in Yorkdale, and they jumped on me and they're like, "Oh my God, Coach Travis, I wish I listened to you." I said, "What happened?" They're like, "Man, they're like the most useless diploma you could ever get, traveling tourism." And I was just like, "Really?" They're like, "Yeah, man." Like, they're like, wasting my time. You know, I was just like, man, I'm not the one to say, I told you so. I was like, you know what, you're going to figure it out. You know, you invest 3 years of your life. You're 22, 23 now. You know, just make sure you learn from this and you do your homework. And it's all of our responsibilities, because you have to, one thing that these kids have to realize is that there's probably 1,000 jobs out there, but there's probably 20,000 graduates. 19,000 of you are not going to get a job in the field that you want to be in.
Right off
you know
the
what
bat.
I mean?
Yeah,
so,
there are only so many openings and stuff like
exactly.
that, right? So. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into a quick Manscaped read, and we can get back to the show. Now, if I mess up, bear with me. I tend to mess up on these because you get tongue-tied, tongue-twisted, whatever the saying is, when reading these laid-out scripts. So bear with me, all right? Support for the Who and How Club today is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched in the UK. We've gone, oh my God, hold on. Manscaped just launched in the UK. We've gone years without using the right tools for the job. You could be one of the first men in England to experience their life-changing products. And by their life-changing products, I'm referring to Manscaped, of course. But if you're from Toronto, I mean, you could get these too. Shout out to the city that I'm from. And yeah, I've been using their products for a few months now since they've sponsored the show. And it's a true benefit for those who care about grooming. You know, some men don't care about that stuff. Thankfully, I don't have chest hair, but you can use their products for like the leg hair and stuff like that. I've thought about it. I don't use it for that though. I use it for the family jewels. Mostly, but I also have their weed whacker, which is like a nose hair trimmer and ear hair trimmer. I have a bunch of products from them, and I don't have any chest hair or back hair, thankfully, so I don't need to use their products for that. But if you do have that stuff and you're interested in grooming and focused on that, and maybe your girl likes when you're smooth, I would definitely consider getting their products. Pretty much that's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team has perfected the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created and just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0, which is what I have. They released it in the UK recently as well. So their 3rd generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. I haven't had any accidents. Word is bond. When I tell you this is premium, I mean premium. The battery will last up to 90 minutes, so you could take a longer shave. The waterproof technology allows you to groom in the shower. One of the coolest features is the LED light, which illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise trimming. Let's not forget about the charging stand. Show your mower off loud and proud, because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB. If you are listening to me speak right now, I want you to experience it firsthand for yourself. Let's get that bush to tush clean. Yeesh. Get 20% off. I'm so sorry, guys. Don't kill me, all right? Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code WHOHOW20 at manscaped.com. Once again, that is WHOHOW20, WHOHOW, and the numbers 20, so you can get 20% off of all products and orders, and free shipping at manscaped.com. Make your testes their besties, and yeah, you'll be happy with the products, because I know I am. And I also wouldn't promote any products if I didn't use them myself, and if they weren't didn't have a positive outcome on my life. All right, so use code WHOHOW20 when visiting manscaped.com and get that 20% off discount. All right, let's get back to the show. One.
Oh yeah.
So let's dial it back a bit and then talk about, because we're already an hour in, which is not bad, but I like this because you're providing us a lot of substance, and speaking from your perspective, I think it's very important, especially from the educational standpoint. You know what I mean? But I don't want to get away from you as well as a person, and because you were clearly taught the right way. You were inspired by people who were around you. You had mentors. You had people who inspired you, and you're an observer and a naturally born leader, which is dope. And I can relate to that. When we talk about, let me ask you about 80 Sounds and what that's about. Can you talk to the people about 80 Sounds?
Right. Yeah, sure. So 80 Sounds is basically a clothing line I started, and it came to me kind of in a dream. Well, it came to me in many forms, but I do a lot of traveling. Like I said, my father lives in New York. I travel a lot with my son. I try to expose him to a lot of things. And the one thing is, like I said, since my playing days, I put on some weight. It's not a secret. I love my food. I love my drink. I love my drinks. But if you said, Travis, let's go on vacation. Let's go to Vegas. Okay, Arys, let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is, how do I feel comfortable? I'm going to go to the Ralph Lauren outlet. I'm going to go buy a couple 3-packs of, their plain white tees with the horse on it. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll put on some jeans, fresh pair of shoes, kicks or whatever. I got my accessories, my belt, my chain. I'm good to go. Let me put on a fresh white tee. I can't go wrong. I'm going to look clean every day. So let's say I buy, a 3-pack is probably $35. I'll probably buy 3 of those. So there's 9 T-shirts, right?
Yeah.
That's 35, 3, that's $105. Every time I'm going away, I'm doing this. Like, I still have piles and piles of these white tees that just unworn, still in the packaging. So I'm like, okay, listen, why am I giving Ralph Lauren all this money? Also, a lot of my friends, shout out Kaiser, shout out my boy Jamal with his clothing brand as well, JAE. I wear a lot of local stuff, people that mean something to me. And I get stopped everywhere. Like, I'll go to concerts. I went to a concert in New York. A dude was like, "Yo, what's that? How do you pronounce that? Where's it from?" Like, Toronto. I'll give out his Instagram page, connect them or whatever. And that's happened to me. Like, my boy Jamal has a shirt that says, "Money can't buy." What's that? Money. Oh, geez. When I wear this shirt, man, like, I got a couple of them, and when I wear this shirt,
you feel empowered.
Money can't buy love. Money can't. And I get stopped everywhere, on the train, wherever. So that was like a red light. That was like a flashlight. I was like, hey, man, I need to start my own thing, wear my own thing, promote myself.
Yes.
Okay, so also, so the 80 Sounds, I'm an 80s baby. My grandmother watched the news every night. Like, I'm talking religiously, 11 p.m. My grandmother took a nap at 10:30. She's waking up at 11 p.m. to watch the news.
Yes.
And they would start the news off, another murder in the Toronto West End. My grandmother, sometimes, she'll be in tears. She's like, what's wrong with this generation? And I'm looking at it, I was like, man, you're making it seem like there weren't murders in the 70s or the 60s. And she's like, no, this generation's the worst. Like, it's terrible. And just fast forward, I remember, now I watch the news. You know what I mean? If I miss the 11 o'clock news, I'm checking the news on my phone or whatever.
Apps,
And now I watch these kids nowadays. I'm like, man, these dudes are the worst. These kids are wilding out here. These kids, man, have no respect. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? I was just like, wait a second. My grandma used to say the same stuff about us. So I'm thinking, okay, wait a second. We were different. Yes. We were different. So I'm like, what separated us? Now, just to touch on something, how we are different. I remember, Eric, I grew up in Jane and Trickery, right? So just south of Lawrence, for those that don't know, on Jane.
Yeah.
And in between the two buildings on the block, there's a basketball court. I kid you not. We could be in a full court basketball game. And, you'd have, who you would call OGs, dudes on the side that were just there, whatever they were doing outside, grown men that you had respect for. And we would see an elderly lady across the street, and they would stop the game and be like, yo, go get her shopping bags, walk into her building, you guys can continue your game when we were playing.
Yes.
And you couldn't say no, you know what I'm saying? Because everybody in the community looked out for one another. Everybody had respect for one another.
Yes.
You get on a bus back then and a woman needed a seat, you got up. You know what I mean? You held the bar. You stood up.
Yes.
You wouldn't swear in front of elderly people. You know what I mean? Now you can see just certain things. You're just like, man, like, this is how we differ. But, it all comes back to community. You know what I mean? So that's how we stand out. So basically, the 80s sounds is just like, I had 80s born, 80s raised, or 80s inspired. You don't necessarily have to be from the 80s to represent or have have that resonate with you or to connect with it on a deeper level. You just have to understand that there's a greater purpose and not just all about you. The other part of it is just I'm kind of chronicling. So I stepped into kind of the investment world, and I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling once the COVID restrictions lift. And I just kind of want to promote the brand authentically and organically. I wanted to kind of chronicle my life. And
when I heard and saw it, I was like, Travis this is a perfect name for a record label, even to have like artists underneath, like 80s sound, that's it.
Listen, I've got
the logo and
probably
everything.
a dozen. Yeah. I've got a dozen business plans that all connect with this 80s sounds. But yeah, it's just going to kind of chronicle how I navigate through this investment world. And again, it's to show these kids that it's possible. You know what I mean? So when I go to meetings and I take a picture with a lawyer, or if I'm on site of one of my building of a project and I take a picture with an architect, I'm going to have my stuff on, and, hopefully kids realize, okay, wait a second. Part of one of the pillars is confidence. I have a graffiti t-shirt that has, I think it's 16 or 17 characteristics of what really 80 sound is all about. And I know confidence is one, and pride and integrity and heart and hustle. Another thing, people get hustle and hustling, there's a negative connotation. No, man, like, that's just believing in something and giving it your all, and it's kind of just having that one track mind and maneuvering through it and doing what you got to do to get things done. But it's all going to come. It's been getting a very favorable response from the community, like locally, internationally.
You gotta send me some stuff or something, man. I want to wear it on. I want to model for it. Like, yo, I love the logo. It's like something I can relate to it. I look at it and I'm like, that's a symbol. That's like, I want to tattoo that. I want to get a chain. Like, it's like, it's a symbol. You know what I mean? And I get it. 80 sound, I relate to it. I'm born in 89, but like, the vibe that I like, and the 90s and the 80s music.
So two things. One, the music note. I have the music note in there because one thing about me, while I observe, like, I can tell you about, like, when I'm a big music lover, like my uncle used to play R&B and hip hop in the house, reggae, whatever, everything. And it's just one of those things, like, when I think back in time of situations that I've been in and points in my life, that when I relive those experiences, I could always connect a song or an album or a soundtrack to that memory. So that music note kind of illustrates. Instead of having the O, I had the music note, and that kind of like, connects the music. They say, music's a great teacher, and it helps me remember things. So as well, so it's one of those things where it only made sense. The other thing was, if you look on the quote T-shirt, and it's probably the bestseller, my bestseller right now, it says, "Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional." You're going to feel some pain. Whatever you go through, there's going to be some pain.
100%.
Anything worth having, there's going to be some pain. There's going to be some obstacles. But now suffering, that means, okay, you felt some pain and you chose not to do anything. So you want to be, you're not stuck in the mud, but you choose to sit in that situation. And now the pain is just becoming insurmountable, and it's becoming too much. now it becomes suffering. But that's self-inflicting. So I think that one hits home with a lot of people. And, we're just going to keep it going. And like I said, I've had a very favorable response from the community. I feel like I'm at the post office every day just shipping out merchandise. But no, thanks for
I love it, man. Yeah, man. I wanna promote it too, and just I wanna model for that brand, bro. I want a nice white tee. It'd be dope to just do it. I don't know how, but when this COVID is done, man, we gotta put our brains together and figure out like. I just like what it represents, you know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
Just hearing you talk about it more and what it represents and what it means to you, it's like it's necessary, that 80s sound. Please make a record label and sign me first, because that's a record label name right there, 80s sound. That's perfect.
I appreciate it.
So I'm gonna ask you a couple things. This is sort of like a lightning round, so you could give like a 1 or 2 word answer to these questions, but we're just gonna bang them out. They're usually just picking your brain, whatever the first thing that comes to your mind, you just say it, all right?
Right.
All right, so first off, we'll start off, slow. So what does Black History Month mean to you?
When you said 1 or 2 words, I mean, let's say pride.
Pride. What does being a father mean to you?
Jeez. Great responsibility.
What's an accomplishment of yours that you could share?
That I've had a hand in dozens of kids fulfill their dreams, post-secondary education, using sports as a vehicle.
What's something that you went through in life and you thought to yourself that you might not make it out, but you did? Or overcome it, let's say, like a challenge.
What is a challenge? I mean, I've got high self-esteem and great confidence in myself. So I can tell you things that were difficult. I mean, just even graduating with a business degree from university, I mean, there were challenges. That was a tall task, but we'll go with that for now.
What keeps you going?
Realizing that I don't know everything, that there's more to learn, there's more to accomplish, never being satisfied, and just trying to put the younger generation, mainly my family, in a better position than that probably that we started off with. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. My brother and I, when I say we.
Mm-hmm. Define yourself in 3 words. If I was a stranger, even though you and I know each other, pretend I don't know you at all. And you got to introduce yourself to me. And this is the way you got to introduce yourself, by defining yourself in 3 words. I got to do the same. What are those 3 words that you would say to me?
I'd say integrity. I'm going to say heart/toughness. Because you got to have heart, believe in yourself, and you got to have a mental toughness component. And then the third one is, I'd say caring. I'm a very caring individual. I care about those around me. I care about the world. I care about the impact that I have on others. I'm the type of person that, if we make a connection, I help you out. And, after that conversation, I don't stop caring. I'm going to remember, exactly, the next time we come in contact, I'm going to remember what we discussed. And, it's because, it doesn't just stop there. It doesn't end there. So I would say I would go with those 3.
Just a few more. What's something about yourself that you changed? Maybe something recently, something that you had to grow out of, let's say, like maybe whether it's a habit or something you acknowledged about yourself that you're like, you know what, I got to change this about myself.
I changed the fact that I put others before me. You can help others and still be selfish. And that's one thing I tell my son. It's okay to be it's okay to be selfish and look out for yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. So you have to take care of yourself first. And before I used to, it's like after you teach, you turn into a psychologist or a counselor, and you're helping everyone, but you're draining yourself. So having that balance, I had to change because it was favorable, not to me, it was favorable more to everyone else. So I had to change that. And also expecting, again, it sounds cliche, expecting you from everyone else. You know what I mean? Not everyone's going to get it. Nipsey says, it's not for everyone. Everybody can't go, that kind of thing. So it's like, you got to understand your journey. You got to understand your journey is meant to be, it's a self journey for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Individual journey for a reason. So those are a couple things that I had to change, but everything's still going well.
What's next for Travis when you think about life, your life,
I think, like I said, I want to, just diving into the investment world. And like I said, I have a lot of projects that I want to launch. I want to just continue to help kids, especially from our community. When you hear these words disenfranchised and marginalized and whatever fancy word, whatever terminology the government wants to use or whatever, I hate them. It's just one of those things, man. But we could change the narrative, man. Yes. Like, we just got to give back. We can give back. We just need to communicate. Our communication skills need to get a lot stronger. And I think the key, one of the keys is we got to, as a community, we got to value education as a whole, and I'm not talking university. I'm not talking college. I'm talking about as a whole. And,
self-education.
I think, you start, I think, things in our community would start to change, and then we'll have a ripple effect. But you have to start at home. So I'm going to start with my community and, be on the lookout for that. I definitely have. I talked to one of you earlier. I think you talked to Marlon. You talked to Slinger the other day, right?
Yeah.
So I always reach out to him and I say, when I call you, it's go time. It ain't going to be, we don't need to strategize. Like, I got it. So we'll have some things on the go ready to help out the South Jane community.
As I'm talking to all of you, I'm realizing you all know each other in some way. Like, I knew we went to the shop. I knew we all went to the shop. I didn't know you guys knew each other. So it's just crazy. It's crazy. When I spoke with Slinger, he told me his connection to Dejamar. And then, now you're telling me your connection to Slinger. So I find it everything's meant to be and happens the way it's supposed to. You know what I'm saying?
Right, absolutely.
Like when you were mentioning earlier, you knowing Dave from the year I was born. I wasn't even born, but now you fast forward and I'm on the podcast with you, and Dave is someone who means a lot to me too. He's a part of the council. I got a council, a group of guys who I go to for guidance, and they're my OGs. You know what I'm saying? So it's just cool to see the full circle, and this is how the knowledge gets shared, right? You don't be selfish with it. You give it back. I think I already know your answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, and then we're going to close off. Glass half empty or half full?
No, the glass is half full. The glass is half full.
Talk to me.
You got to be optimistic, right? You can make a lot of things happen with it. It's like, how could I say this? If you need to charge a battery, that process to go from 50 to 100, I'd rather go from 50 to 100 than 0 to 100. You know what I'm trying to say? It's just one of those things, right? Give me half a glass of water, I'll make something happen. So,
or to choose to not even charge it. 50% can only go less, and lesser than that if you don't even charge the phone. So if you're not pouring into that glass to fill it back up, then what are you doing? The water might evaporate at some point if you're not watering your own plant, or you're filling up the cup. Imagine that's your response, but there's somebody out there who looks at the glass as half empty, and that's what scares me sometimes, Travis.
Right.
How are we looking at situations? How are we looking at ourselves as you know. So it's all about perspective and optimism, like you said. And how are we gonna fill that cup? Are we going to fill it, or are we going to leave it where it's at? Are we going to leave ourselves where we're at? Are we not going to change? Are we not going to grow? Are we not going to fulfill our destinies? Are we just going to keep following the common thing, you know, and the structure that was built around us? So it's really on us to figure out who we are and not let what we do define us. Like, I do believe, like, what we do is because of who we are, but what we do is not who we are. Do you get what I mean by that?
Absolutely.
Like, we do what we do because of who we are. Like, you're a teacher, you're a coach, you're a mentor because of who you are. But what you do is not who you are. You're more layered. You're layered than that. Absolutely. We can't define ourselves based on what we do, but it's a piece of who we are. That's why we do it.
Exactly.
You know, so thank you. If there was anything that you would say to, let's say there's a group of kids, you know, or a group, you have like the attention of kids for like 2 minutes. Maybe a group of kids. These are things that you've always wanted to say to some of the kids that you've worked with, or the youth, or whoever, but you never got a chance to. Like, what's something that you would say to them right now, like a message or something inspiring?
Oh man, continue to, you know, believe in who you are. You know, even when, you know, when the days are dark, like nothing's gonna be easy. You know, like I said, my father used to tell me, you know, like, you know, don't feel sorry for, you know, you can't feel sorry for someone who's given the same opportunity as you and they just kind of squandered that opportunity. But, you know, it sounds a bit harsh, but like you said, whether your glass is full or half full, you know, make something happen, you know, and think outside the box, you know, think outside the box, even if you got to go against the grain. Because, you know, a lot of times the situation, it's the blind leading the blind. You know, everyone's just going in a particular direction, and, you know, there's no leader. You don't know where you're going. You don't know where that destination is going to end up. So you got to have a plan. And, you know, that kind of segues into my next point. But, you know, you got to have a plan. What do you want? What do you want out of your life? I know, you know, like I said, I'm kind of, I don't want to date myself, but, you know, I'm an 80s baby. I'm approaching 40.
Yeah.
And
congrats.
You know, thank you. When you look at something like that, you're like, man, you would have never, like, I remember when I was in high school. You know, I remember when I was in university, and it was just like, man, if you would have told, oh, you're about to be 40, and I'm just like, man, like, time flies. And so, you know, as much as the journey, it's a beautiful journey. Embrace it and try and get everything out of life that you want, because you're not going to be, you know, you're here for a good time, not a long time. And I think when you realize that, I think you become fearless. And when you become fearless, that's when great things happen. You know, you got to push. I would say you got to push the envelope. You have to take chances. You have to take risks, because nothing good comes out of the comfort zone. You know, your comfort zone, you know, whatever you do, you know what you're going to get. It's going to be the same result that you got for the past, whatever that you've been doing, you know, for however long you've been in that zone. But if you want to achieve more, if you have, you know, bigger goals, higher expectations, well, you're going to have to change a few things. And, you know, get comfortable being uncomfortable. You know what I mean? There's a little, like I said, you know, even if you, there's a little pain, as I mentioned with the t-shirt, you know, get used to that. Find a way to maneuver. You know, it's just like, you know, you look at great athletes, or, you know, I know, let's use Kobe Bryant, for example. You know, he blew out his Achilles and still, you know, knocked down 2 foul shots. You know, you can't tell me he was crying on the inside, but, you know, he made himself comfortable for those few seconds, a couple of minutes, and he completed his job. It's the same thing. Whatever you endure throughout that journey, you know, find a way to persevere, and it comes from self-belief and confidence. And the last thing I guess I'll leave you with is kind of, you know, it comes from, you know, having a plan. And if the people in your circle don't fit that plan, I mean, don't be afraid to, you know, step out on your own. You know what I mean? Your journey's not going to be lonely throughout the entire duration. You know what I mean? People are going to come into your life, but sometimes you have to step away in order to see. It's like, you know, you got to step back to see the entire picture. You know what I mean? You get a better view sometimes from the background. So, yeah, I'll leave those with you, in no particular order, but, that's probably the best information that I can give. And just keep working because, you're not the only one. It's like if someone tells me they're trying to, they want to have their own podcast. Well, guess what? There's 1,000 kids around the world that want to have their own podcast. And when you stop working, guess what? They just gain an advantage, So keep working.
I love that. And I love the idea and the concept around sacrifice. I think you had mentioned it earlier in our conversation too. And a lot of people are afraid to sacrifice. Sometimes you got to cut off some people, the people that are the most dear to you. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Whether it's family, friends, all of that. Or you posted something on IG about the ships. That post that you posted?
Oh, yeah?
The ships. Yeah, like a ship gets you to a destination. So if your friendships, relationships, family ships aren't leading you to anywhere, there's no end or there's no, destination with those things that you're involved in, then you might have to, rethink what those look like in your life and maybe cut them off, man. I've been cut off for a while and my life has kind of gotten better because you just have time to yourself to really focus on who you are, like sometimes people will keep so many people around them and it's gratuitous, but it's like how many people, what are these people bringing to your life? Like,
exactly.
Are you bringing anything to theirs? And maybe you're only bringing something to theirs, but they're not bringing it. It has to be reciprocal.
Right.
So if it's not reciprocated, then you got to make some moves and and a lot of people are afraid to be alone. A lot of people are afraid to not tell people what they're up to. Like you posted another thing about like, stop telling people what you're up to because it gives you like a satisfaction in your brain and then you don't even end up accomplishing that thing anyway.
Exactly.
Right. So like, yeah, everyone, how can people reach you, Travis? Like how can people follow you and stuff like that and 80 Sounds? Let the people know.
At 80 Sounds, 80 SOUNDS, and then on Twitter at TYOE83. TYOE, trust your own eyes. Don't let someone paint a picture for you into what you should be seeing. Trust your own eyes and what you see, go with that, go with your intuition and stick with your plan. So on Twitter, it's at TYOE83, and on Instagram is at 80 Sounds, 80 SOUNDS.
I pray that the listeners today learned something. A lot of analogies, a lot of examples, a lot of teachings, a lot of knowledge just being shared in this episode. This was truly like a grown man talk session, Travis, and I want to appreciate you for being on the show, just letting you know that, I look up to you, and anytime you talk, I listen. So just thank you for being on the show. It's an honor.
I appreciate it, man. I mean, it's just like I said, I mean, you're part, I know I've been to a couple of your shows and a couple of functions that you've that you've put on, and the energy. I can't remember the particular day we met, but I just remember you just coming around more and more, and the energy you're putting out. I mean, I'm not surprised that you're having such success, and continue doing what you're doing. You're an inspiration to many. Hopefully, I haven't heard your music in a while, so hopefully you haven't given up on that and you're putting out some more music. But I used to look forward to them emails. But
I know it's coming. It's coming.
I think we motivate and inspire each other.
100%.
Just because you're younger than I am doesn't mean that
right.
that I don't take anything away from you. Like I said, I'm an observer, and you got that quiet confidence. You wait till your haircut's and you'll be in the chair and you won't say a word, and then you'll come back and you'll be like, wait a second, but you said this, and this, and I look forward to our next debate when it comes to hip hop. But I'm glad to see that you're. I remember one time you told me you were waiting for the perfect time to listen to Reasonable Doubt.
Yes.
And as much as I am a Jay-Z fan, like I had a debate with someone the other day about, they're like, what's the best album, the best debut album you listen to? And I didn't say Reasonable Doubt. They're like, what? How can you? I was just like, they respond. But
I'm still not ready yet. You remember that combo though? You remember that?
Yeah. And I was just like, man, this kid's nuts. You haven't listened to Reasonable Doubt, but everything in due time.
100%. And speaking of time and all of that, we got to do this again. Hopefully, you know, when the COVID ban and all of that lifts soon, we'll do like an episode in person and get more in depth and talk more about you and just share that knowledge for the people, because I think it's a different vibe and energy when you're in person versus over the phone.
Absolutely.
And stuff like that. So we will definitely do this again. Thank you again. Continue being you, because I'm watching, I'm learning from you. And I got music coming, I promise you. So the goal, Travis, is to work for oneself, man. I'm done with working for other people, man. If I could just have enough time in a day to focus on the podcast, the music, all of my stuff, I know that I'd be somewhere else. But even though I'm in the field that I want to be in and I love giving back, you start to think about your life. You're like, yo, I'm not working for me though. I don't have enough time in the day because I'm working for somebody else. I want to turn this into my own thing. So it's hard those are the difficulties of being an entrepreneur. You know what I'm saying? And these are things that I've spoken to you about and like I've learned from you, and like you talking about entrepreneurship and just you leveraging your, you know, what you have to make it work for yourself and stuff like that. So I'm using everything that I've learned from you. Trust me. It's just a matter of time, you know? So.
All right. Well, keep it up, man. Thank you for the opportunity.
Anytime, Travis. Thank you. We'll talk offline. All right?
All right.
All right. Cheers.